The field of sleep apnea has changed since 2013, with the recognition that there are 4 characteristics involved in contributing to obstructive sleep apnea. These 4 characteristics refer to Pcrit, which is the closing pressure at which the airway collapses; loop gain, which is the ventilatory response to the buildup of carbon dioxide; arousal threshold, which is your propensity to wake from sleep; and upper airway recruitment, which is how well do the upper airway dilator muscles function during sleep. All 4 phenotypes of sleep apnea are influenced by how you breathe. So for example, Pcrit is influenced by having the mouth open or closed, is your tongue resting in the roof of the mouth or not, and how hard or how light do you breathe. In order to reduce the negative pressure created during inspiration, it's very important to help maintain an open airway. You help maintain an open airway by having the mouth closed, tongue resting in the roof of the mouth, and breathing light and breathing slow. Loop gain can be assessed using breath hold time. So for example, if you measure your Bolt score, and if your Bolt score is low and you experience obstructive sleep apnea, it indicates that you have high loop gain. High loop gain implies an increased sensitivity to the accumulation of carbon dioxide. So for example, you're asleep, and if you stop breathing during sleep due to collapse of the upper airways, as you stop breathing, carbon dioxide increases in the blood because it cannot leave the body through the lungs. And as carbon dioxide increases, during the stopping of the breath, carbon dioxide increases as it cannot leave the blood through the lungs. If you have high loop gain, it means that when you resume breathing with exaggerated ventilation. This in turn causes your carbon dioxide to drop from hypercapnia, which is too high CO2, to hypocapnia, which is too low CO2 in the blood. When CO2 in the blood goes too low, the brain doesn't send a signal to breathe. This can initiate a central apnea. And also, when the output from the brain to breathe is reduced, the activity of the upper airway dilator muscles is also reduced, and this in turn influences upper airway recruitment. The third phenotype of obstructive sleep apnea is arousal threshold. An arousal threshold in simple terms is, are you a deep sleeper or are you a light sleeper? In actual fact, the greatest risk of mortality across all 4 phenotypes of sleep apnea seems to be with people with low arousal threshold. Low arousal threshold implies that you wake up quite easily. So if, for example, you have a stopping of the breath during sleep or a slight accumulation of carbon dioxide in the blood and drop of oxygen in the blood, this can waken you from sleep. Continuous interruptions to your sleep will cause you to feel tired in the morning, but also it is not good for your health. People with low arousal threshold don't get into deep sleep, and deep sleep is really important for recovery and restoration. The fourth phenotype of sleep apnea that we're looking at is upper airway recruitment. How do we get the upper airway dilator muscles in the throat doing their job? There are 20 muscles in the throat, and a subset of these muscles are responsible for helping to maintain an open airway. These muscles are influenced by your breathing. So for example, when you breathe through your nose, you harness nasal nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is an aerocrine messenger. It's not fully known the role of nitric oxide in sleep, but it's speculated that nitric oxide plays some role in sleep. Carbon dioxide, which I referred to earlier, when carbon dioxide goes too low in the blood due to hyperventilation or overbreathing, breathing too hard, too fast during sleep. When carbon dioxide goes too low in the blood, and this can be caused by hyperventilation or breathing too hard and too fast during sleep. When CO2 in the blood goes too low, the brain doesn't send the signal to breathe, and when the brain doesn't send the signal to breathe, the activity of the upper airway dilator muscles is also reduced. Another therapy which is very beneficial in terms of improving upper airway muscle tone and function is myofunctional therapy. Nose breathing with light breathing, slow breathing and deep breathing help in the function of the upper airway dilator muscles. All in all, to significantly reduce the risk of obstructive sleep apnea, it is vital that breathing is in and out through the nose, tongue is resting in the roof of the mouth, breathing is light, breathing is slow, and breathing is deep.